Hello. Hi everyone. Good morning. As part of the today's session, I just want to give you a brief overview on how exactly we can validate the XML response. So far, guys, if you have seen the various examples that we have automated till now, all are based out of a JSON itself. So as part of the today's session, I just want to demonstrate how exactly we can deal with an XML based stuff. So here, first of all, what I want to do right now is, so here is a get. Basically it's retrieving the information in the form of an XML. So this is retrieving just one specific entry. Okay, this is retrieving one user specific entry, and others.xml is the one which is retrieving a set of information. If you see, basically an array of information is populating. For now, let's start with the single set of a data, how exactly we are going to deal with it. So what I'm going to do right now is, in the same feature file, whichever the scenario is there, let me comment it out. And I don't want a background for this. Let me comment it out, the whole thing. So here, in the form of XML information, which is get all author information, or I can say get author information in the form of an XML, and this is the URL. So here, given, okay, let me update it, given URL, and update this particular URL. I'm just giving it as an URL here, guys. Okay, perfectly all right. And then, so here this is not a JSON, so I'm not giving any header. Ideally, in this case, right? So I can pass on this information as an XML. So as this is a basic scenario that I'm doing, I was just leaving it as it is. And the method itself is a get, and the response code is this one. Let me try to run this particular feature file and see how this is gonna work. If you see right now, it executed successfully, and here is the response that we got from this particular API. See here, this is the XML response. Let me copy this particular response, and what I'm doing right now is I'm just pasting here in a format. Okay, see here, in a proper format, I have placed it in an XML. If you have a look into this hierarchy, it's starting with a hash, and a one hash set of a data is there, in which it has an ID, name, email, avatar, created and updated it. All these details are there within this particular hash itself. Okay, whichever these details are there, all these details are there within this particular hash itself. Okay, perfectly all right. So then, Surendra, how are we gonna validate this particular one? Ideally, in order to validate, see here, the JSON basically. If you look at the JSON, we used a dot operator there in validating, or from the response, we are retrieving that information. The similar way here, in order to deal with this XML, you need to use this slash. So here, and what I'm doing right now is match. From the response, there is a hash, right? In the response, there is a hash, and it has a name basically. Hash name. I'm cross-checking that particular name with my name. Ideally, when you hit that API, this is the name basically that it is retrieving. So I'm comparing that particular one with a Surendra. Okay, so in a JSON, basically, when you are dealing with it, we usually use a dot. In an XML, we are using this slash. So let me try to run this particular program and check it out how this is gonna work. So it should fail basically, right? So it's stating that these values are not equal. This is what the expected value is. Let me copy this value, update this information, and when I run my scenario right now, the script will pass as the basic assertion that we have kept is valid, and it executes successfully. See, basically it ran successfully and it got a passed. Perfectly all right. This scenario is passed. So if you switch back here, this is the basic scenario that it executed successfully. Right now, I want to go with this complete authors. So here it has, if you observe this, copy this complete XML response from the browser, put it in the XML formatter, for a better visibility itself, I'm just dealing this one. If you are comfortable in identifying the hierarchy, it's not required. And if you see, In the response, you have an object. Inside the objects, you have an object, and inside this particular object, you have a name. Okay, perfectly all right. And additionally, I know that the indexes, or else let me minimize this one and see basically. So here, how many subsets are there? One, two, three, four, five. If you remember in a JSN, in order to start with the first info, we were specifying the index as a 0, right? 0 as the first object, right? But in this XML, we will be starting the index from 1 itself. Okay, it's not from a 0. This XML will start its index from 1 itself. So here, inside the objects, there is an object and there is an email. So here, what I'm gonna do right now is, let me copy this whole scenario. So let me create a new scenario. The scenario that we have created earlier is dealing with only one specific author information. Now I'm getting get all other information, get this API URL. I'm just updating this API URL here, followed by, so here the status is this one, and this time in the response, what we have in the response, we have an objects first. So in the response, we have an objects. Inside the objects, we have an object again. So we have an object, and basically it's starting with the index 1 and email. So for this email, and I was just comparing with this particular email ID. Okay, and I'm just comparing with this email ID. So when I run this as a Cucumber feature, and if you have a look into this one, ideally it's the same email ID, right? It will pass basically. The script will pass. Okay, the script will pass without having any issues. And when dealing with this particular XML, it's not a mandatory to pass on this particular response also. So here, while using the match, even without this particular response also, it will identify and it will perform that particular operation. So when I run it, so this time if you see, it should execute successfully and it should print that. So the point here is, when you are dealing with your applications, if you have a JSON, we have already covered a couple of lectures on it. If you have an XML, in this lecture we have seen how exactly we can work on this particular XML in order to transfer it, or in order to skip the response keyword, or in order to go with a multiple sets of a sub arrays also, we have seen, guys. Okay, perfectly all right. So that's all I have for the today's session. We'll connect back in the next session with couple more examples. Thank you very much. Bye bye.